Good evening and welcome to the July 17th meeting of the City of Summit Zoning Board of Adjustment. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In accordance with New Jersey State Statute 10:4-10, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to a newspaper of record and has been posted here at Summit City Hall. This meeting is a judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to the issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision, and decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. For the benefit of the interested public, this meeting is being live streamed on the city's YouTube page and also broadcast on Summit's government channels, which are Comcast Channel 34 and Verizon Channel 30. A transcript of this meeting is also being taken using the video from the cameras and the microphones, so we need all speakers to utilize one of those microphones here in the room. So you can't just stand up in a seat and talk. You have to come to one of the microphones up front. Please note that the fire exits are to my right, your left, and at the back of the room where you came in. The city has an assisted listening system for those who are hearing impaired. If anyone needs that assistance, please obtain the system here at the dais and return it afterwards. Ms. Sulios, would you please call the roll of the members?
Sure. Chairman Spur is excused this evening. Vice Chairman Steiner?
Here.
Ms. Newell is excused this evening. Mr. Gonzalez?
Here.
Mr. Mullen?
Here.
Mr. Millay?
Here.
Mr. Loikitz is excused this evening. Ms. Toth?
Here.
Ms. Sager is excused this evening, as is Mr. Feskins. Mr. Yuko?
Here.
You have a quorum. You may proceed.
Okay. Andy Ball, who's sitting to my right, your left, is the zoning board's attorney. He will be advising the board members on matters of law and is the key interface with the applicant's attorney. He does not vote on the applications. Stephanie Sulios is a city employee and is the zoning board secretary. Ms. Sulios works with the applicants on preparing their applications, planning our agendas, and keeping our meeting minutes. She also does not vote on the applications. We also have two consultants with us from the engineering and planning consulting firms, and they will be sitting at that table there and will provide input to the board, but they also do not vote. As you know, our board consists of 7 regular members and up to 4 alternates. All the members can participate in hearings, but a maximum of 7, but we only have 6 can vote, and that brings us to the issues of the night. We have 2 cases and normally we go through a number of other things. I think I'm going to take them slightly out of order. Design Build Management provided us with a letter today, what was it today? Today, when they were notified that we would not have a full board here tonight, they are entitled to have their case heard in front of a full board of at least 7, and we do not have that tonight, and they have asked that we carry this particular item to August 7th, 2023, and I'll ask our attorney to give us what our options are, which is very simple, I believe.
Yes, it's simple. Since we don't have a full board, the applicants need 5 votes in order to get the D variances that are requested. So they, like you said, Mr. Vice Chairman, they're entitled to a full membership and have requested that. So the board should entertain that request to carry it without further notice until that next available hearing.
And that next available hearing would be August 7th.
Okay. And this would be without notice, as they have requested?
Yes, and they have also in that correspondence waived the time frame within which the board has to act.
Which are all the legal items that they have to do in order for this to happen. Is there a motion from a member of the board?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Should we roll call or just voice?
Roll call.
Roll call, please.
Okay. Vice Chairman Steiner,
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez,
Yes.
Mr. Molland,
Yes.
Mr. Malay,
Yes.
Ms. Toth,
Yes.
Mr. Yuko.
Yes.
The motion carries.
I know the public was hoping to be here, but to hear this case tonight, but it will not be heard until August 7th. Can we take questions from the public? Well,
As long as it's just a procedural
just a
question.
procedural question, fine, but we can't talk about the case.
Yep, I don't want to discuss the case. I just want to ask, is it possible to defer it to September? Because I would think a lot of people are on vacation in the month of August. This would be,
We're going with the date that they requested. We, I think, are going to be talking to the attorney because their attorney, and apparently there's another attorney now involved from a neighbor, that this may be, we're using that as the date because they requested it. Whether or not that holds or moves to a different date, keep your eyes on the city website where that would be posted. Okay, we will move on then to the second case of the evening, which is 6 Hillcrest Avenue. Haven't seen you in a while. Welcome back.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, my name is Bartholomew A. Sheehan Jr. I'm with the firm of Dempsey and Sheehan, attorneys for the applicant, John Hensel, at 6 Hillcrest Avenue, block 1101, lot 23. It is a request under Section 68 of the Municipal Land Use Law for a certificate of nonconforming use. Through the chair, may I ask if there are any members of the interested public here this evening who have concern or interest in this application?
Okay, is there anyone that will be asking questions? I don't see any response to that.
All right, thank you. Then without further ado, I would ask that Dr. John Hensel step forward and be sworn for testimony in this regard. Doctor, if you'd come up here, please.
If it's easier, just sit so you can be sworn in and then sit if you're more comfortable.
No, fine. He's fine.
Okay.
If you could please raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name, spell your last name.
Hensel.
Mr. Sheen?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Hensel, are you aware of the application that was filed in your behalf under the date of May 2nd, 2023, seeking a certificate of nonconforming use?
I am.
And have you considered that application, recognizing that you are under oath this evening?
Yeah, yes.
And do you ratify all of the statements contained in that application?
A yes with one small correction. On the first page, the carriage house is listed as having 2 bedrooms, whereas on the second story of the house, there are actually 3 rooms, which is the way it appears in the city records. And that would be exhibit, I think, 1B. It has always been used as alternately as a bedroom or as a study, depending on the size of the family who happens to be residing there.
And Dr. Hensel, has the floor plan in any way changed since you acquired the property?
It has not.
All right, I have no further questions of the witness. Mr. Chairman would submit him to the examination of the board and any
Anything
member
from our
of the
consultants?
interested public.
Anything from the board members? Anything else, Mr. Sheen?
I have nothing further, would submit the application as presented, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hensel.
Thank you.
Dr. Hensel, I'm sorry. No conditions as far as I can tell.
No. And just as a brief recap, because we don't see these applications very often, the applicant has come in for a certificate of nonconforming use, meaning the use has existed and predates the current zoning restriction against multifamily use. looks to continue that use. I know our zoning officer has provided a report with the extensive history of the property being used consistent with what the applicant has submitted here today. So, assuming there are no issues or other questions from the board, we would consider this for approval tonight.
I had one question. So let's say that structure's probably a little older. If it needed to be torn down, could it be rebuilt if we issue this certificate?
It can be maintained in its current state. I believe if it's completely demolished, that would be considered an abandonment, although it always depends on the intent of the applicant. However, reconstruction, remodeling, those can occur without any issues. The non-conforming use can continue.
And could it be expanded, or just it has to?
No, at that
have
point,
floor
that
plan?
would be considered an expansion of a non-conforming use, and they would need a variance for that.
Mr. Ball, just on the same line of questioning, and having read the history, it seems that the owners and the previous owners have continued respecting the nonconformity and abiding by the rules and the code and making sure that the variances are always are met and that the city acknowledges that they're there. So I feel like no one would go up outside the scope of the use and try to expand that. Of course, I'm not going to make those assumptions for future owners if that's the case, but it seems that right now the case before us is we have a history and a chain of command that shows us that they have been compliant and in fact are not changing anything, deviating or trying to expand upon that.
That's an accurate summary.
Okay. Well, then may I ask the question that I thought
Sure.
Mr. Gonzalez was going to ask, was given your exemplary history of dotting every I and crossing every T and going through this exercise every time you get a new tenant, is there a way for us to extend the length of this approval so long as Dr. Hensel owns the home?
It would remain approved. This is a, non-conforming use that would continue as long as it remains on the property.
Okay.
This
And
would-
it
As long as
always
this
is-
owner
it
or
goes
any
with the land.
future owners have, get on the property, it remains.
In any event that there was a change in tenancy, the owner would have to secure a new certificate of occupancy for that tenancy, but not to justify the use.
Okay,
Right, it runs with the land.
right, okay.
Correct, it runs with the land,
Yes.
not with the,
So at this point, is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Have we deliberated?
second?
Can we have a roll call, please?
Sure. Vice Chairman Steiner,
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez,
Yes.
Mr. Mullen,
Yes.
Mr. Malay,
Yes.
Ms. Toth,
Yes.
Mr. Yuko.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Okay, and we have some resolutions from
Yeah, Mr.
organization.
Chairman, may I ask a question, please?
Sure.
Having approved the application, it is my understanding, and I'm not sure I'm correct, that the certificate can be signed by the zoning officer and does not have to come back to the board for execution. I'm just looking for clarification on that.
Off the top of my head, I do not know whether it requires signature by the board or the zoning officer.
I think once the resolution is adopted, the zoning officer is virtually instructed to issue it.
I believe that's the case, but I will look that up and confirm. And if
Thank
there's
you
any
very much.
deviation, I will be in touch.
May I say one thing before we move to resolutions? I think that this would be something to consider for our annual report. In the 2016 master plan revision, one of the recommendations was to look at accessory dwelling units as an additional form of housing in this city. It provides diversity in housing without adding density necessarily to the neighborhood, and even that bastion of progressive thought, the Wall Street Journal, recently published a piece lauding accessory dwelling units as a way to increase the use of the availability of affordable housing in communities. So I think we should take this ball and run with it.
Stephanie, could you add that to your list of things to remind Steve when he writes the report at the end of the year? And we pass it to you for the next few items.
Okay. So we have a few resolutions for memorialization. The first one up is 19 Oak Ridge Avenue. That's Max Gale and Lilia Belas, ZB-23-2183, Block 4502, Lot 3. The eligible voting members are Chairman Spur, Vice Chairman Steiner, Ms. Newell, Mr. Gonzalez, Mr. Mullen, Mr. Malay, and Mr. Leukitz. Would someone like to make a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Vice Chairman Steiner,
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez,
Yes.
Mr. Mullen,
Yes.
Mr. Malay.
Yes.
The motion carries. Okay, the next one is 22 Beverly Road. That's Tara and Marty Millman, ZB-22-2168, Block 508, Lot 11. The eligible voting members are Chairman Spur, Vice Chairman Steiner, Ms. Newell, Mr. Gonzalez, Mr. Malay, and Mr. Leukitz. Would someone like to make a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, I'm going to take Mr. Malay.
Thank you.
Vice Chairman Steiner,
Yes.
Mr. Malay,
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Yes.
The motion carries. The next one we have is 22 Dogwood Drive, Caroline and Dennis Collins, ZB-23-2182, Block 2305, Lot 19. The eligible voting members are Chairman Spur, Vice Chairman Steiner, Ms. Newell, Mr. Gonzalez, Mr. Mullen, Mr. Malay, and Mr. Leukitz. Would someone like to make a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Okay. Vice Chairman Steiner,
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez,
Yes.
Mr. Mullen,
Yes.
Mr. Malay.
Yeah.
The motion carries. The next one we have is 610 Springfield Avenue, James and Claire Kane. That's ZB-23-2184, Block 2803, Lot 1. The eligible voting members are Chairman Spur, Vice Chairman Steiner, Ms. Newell, Mr. Gonzalez, Mr. Mullen, Mr. Malay, and Mr. Leukitz. Would someone like to make a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Okay. Vice Chairman Steiner,
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez,
Yes.
Mr. Mullen,
Yes.
Mr. Malay.
Yes.
The motion carries. Next, we have 246 Summit Avenue, Richard and Susan Felon, ZB-23-2186, Block 2006, Lot 20. The eligible voting members are Chairman Spur, Ms. Newell, Mr. Gonzalez, Mr. Leukitz, Ms. Toth, Mr. Feskins, and Mr. Yuko. Would someone like to make a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Okay. Mr. Gonzalez
Yes.
and Ms. Toth
Yes.
and Mr. Yuko.
Yes.
The motion carries. Next, we have 19 Manor Hill Road, Amanda and Richard Cregan, ZB-23-2187, Block 3103, Lot 12. The eligible voting members are Chairman Spur, Ms. Newell, Mr. Gonzalez, Mr. Leukitz, Ms. Toth, Mr. Feskins, and Mr. Yuko. Can we have a motion?
So
Moved.
I'm going to take Ms. Toth. And then a second?
Second.
Okay. Mr. Gonzalez
Yes.
and Ms. Toth,
Yes.
Mr. Yuko.
Yes.
The motion carries. So we have a few more. Next, we have 28 Druid Hill Road, Stephen Thompson and Caitlin Lauber, ZB-22-2175, Block 4801, Lot 17. The eligible voting members are Chairman Spur, Ms. Newell, Mr. Gonzalez, Mr. Leukitz, Ms. Toth, Mr. Feskins, and Mr. Yuko. Can we have a motion
So moved.
and a second?
Second.
Okay. Mr. Gonzalez,
Yes.
Ms. Toth,
Yes.
Mr. Yuko?
Yes.
The motion carries. And finally, we have 58 Dale Drive, that's Alexandra and Jason Rosenbaum, CB-23-2185, Block 5605, and Lot 19. The eligible voting members are Chairman Spur, Ms. Newell, Mr. Gonzalez, Mr. Loiketz, Ms. Toth, Mr. Feskins, and Mr. Yuko. Can we have a motion
So moved.
and a second?
Second?
Okay. Mr. Gonzalez,
Yes.
Ms. Toth,
Yes.
and Mr. Yuko.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Okay, at this
So-
point, we have
Well,
a
we have-
resolution.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say that.
A resolution for extension. We have received a request from, on an application that we heard some time ago, and I'll ask our attorney to explain the request and what our options are.
Yes, just briefly, the applicants had financing issues with completing the construction on time, have requested, this is their first request for an extension for another year. I believe it's through September, forget the exact date, but September of 2024. Those are routinely granted by the board as a first request for an extension.
Any questions? Is there a motion
So moved.
and a second?
Second.
Cilios?
Okay. So I'm sorry, do I do eligible voting members for this one, or can I just do a regular roll?
Regular.
Okay.
Yep. Those of us that are here.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. Vice Chairman Steiner,
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez,
Yes.
Mr. Mullen,
Yes.
Mr. Malay,
Yes.
Ms. Toth,
Yes.
and Mr. Yuko.
Yes.
The motion carries.
And lastly, you have a set of minutes.
Yes, I have some minutes. So the minutes are from July 6th. We'll do a roll call vote, no, not a roll call, I'm sorry, a voice vote, but we'll exclude the members who were excused that evening, which were Chairman Spur, Vice Chairman Steiner, Mr. Mullen, Mr. Loiketz, and Ms. Sager. Can we get a motion?
So moved?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, the motion carries.
That concludes all of our business for tonight. Our next meeting is August 7th, 2023. And we are now officially adjourned at 22 minutes. Have we ever done this before? I don't know.
Might be a record.
Thank you all.
Just broke a record.